More often than not, souls seek out meditation, spirituality, even religion, because they're seeking some kind of change. Whether it's to end or move away from what's perceived as an aversive or challenging situation, or to establish something new. This idea of going inside, experiencing something new inside, pulling the soul. Ironically, to establish something new, I actually need to connect with that which is not new at all. Connect with the original. My point of origin, That clean, fresh stage I had at the beginning of my journey through time. I don't need to try to figure out or imagine something new. I actually need to remember where I began, the origin. That's the change that is pulling me. Establishing something new is, in fact, renewal. Going deep inside to the very heart of the self, where these ancient memories are stored. My point of origin, awakening that memory. Some call it highest potential or the best in the self. Simply what I was in the beginning. Where I accumulated so many experiences in my journey through time. The beginning when I was new. That stage of integrity, purity, maturity, deep peace. Remembering, invoking, renewing. This is the newness I am longing for, a return to the original. I will always have to dive deep inside, very sacred place inside, where there's no worldly thought, just the memories of my original stage, my highest potential. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Good evening and welcome to Interview with Raj Yogi. Tonight's topic is establishing something new and real. So, the meditation commentary was actually quite thought provoking, especially for a few reasons in terms of what our ideas of what something new is, something fresh you never ever seen, experienced, created. So, what you were sharing about this original sense of self. But the other aspect about it being something that um, creates real change. So, could you share a bit more in terms of this whole thing about the original experience? Because how is that, if you could share, relevant to just souls wanting change to happen?
Om Shanti. I guess it has a lot to do with exactly what change we want. What direction do we want the change to go into, or what do we want to change into? So usually we seek change. Yes, maybe we're bored, but experiencing something that we find uncomfortable, aversive, challenging, and we have an idea of what we prefer it to be. And it turns out that we can't actually seek out a state that we have absolutely zero experience of. So the example we sometimes use is going into an ice cream shop and requesting a flavor that requesting something that I have no idea even exists. So we it's more of a longing, actually. The change is a longing for something that we lost, that we would like to see restored. So it looks like we're wanting something new or fresh, but we actually have a pretty good idea of what we want that new or fresh thing to be, which means, again, it's shaped by something I had experienced. I can't long or request or want something I have zero experience of. So, what's the change I'm looking for? And this idea of it being real, that's where remembering becomes very powerful rather than trying to imagine something new, which I can't. Again, some might say, no, I can imagine something new. What's innovation about? It's really putting together the stuff we already know, perhaps in a different way, but we're really working with things that we already know and maybe forgot. So it's challenging our concepts, of course, what vision is about, change is about, all of these things.
Would you say that in terms of just day to day changes or seemingly not relevant to spirituality, it's all actually still spiritual in terms of the values of oneself and why then therefore they want change?
I think spirituality is only intended for really day to day life. And when we say spirituality, we're talking, if you will, in a very simple way to think about character. So it requires connecting a few dots. But one of the biggest things I need to kind of realize is that my quality of life, how I'm experiencing day to day, has far less to do with what's going on around me and far more to do what's going on inside of me. Once that penny drops, then I at least I know where to focus my attention when I'm seeking a change.
Now, this is probably a bit of a sensitive question, but it's been conversations out there and this whole thing about positive affirmations and manifesting what I want. Uh, is that real? And does that have anything to do with uh, creating basically something concrete? And how is this study of Raja Yoga Is there any parallels? Is there something that you can share in terms of that piece?
I think it's probably very real. um, when I was very young and in school, I remember a guest instructor said, "Be careful what you ask for, you might get it." So it's really quite intense to sort of work with something very powerful without really knowing what I'm doing. Thoughts are very powerful, and many people say that. Um, if I don't actually understand sort of spiritual laws or how things are kind of working, I could be asking for something and not fully aware of what I'm creating. Probably the most famous story of that is King Midas, who wanted everything that he touched to turn to gold. Seems like a really good idea. But of course, eventually his daughter turns to gold as well. So when we're using these positive affirmations, yes, we are acknowledging the power of the mind, which is true. But I want to be very careful how I am employing the power of the mind and very aware of what change I'm setting in motion.
While you were sharing, and perhaps a part of what the intention of tonight's theme is, because when it comes to spirituality, many souls find that it's not something you can measure. It can be quite abstract. They're saying, "Well, how do I, put money and food on the table? I'm having these ongoing problems with so and so. You're telling me to meditate or consider myself a soul. I don't see any change happening." And so that often seems to be a common question in retreats, in the Raja Yoga course. And so when you're sharing about this aspect of changing oneself, something real is what souls are grappling with. If you have anything to share regarding this.
Yeah, there's always that question of what does spirituality have to do with real life? Again, it depends on what formula one is working with. So let's say there are financial issues or relationship issues or employment issues or any number of areas of my life that can seem to be challenged. Um, I can I can address, if you will, the symptoms. I can do something concrete and put spirituality aside. But the reason spirituality is significant is it allows us to explore, well, how did that arise in the first place? How did I get into this challenging situation in the first place? Now, of course, I might be working with a formula that things happen to me, and I am just an innocent, sort of victim of circumstances. In which case, spirituality will be very challenging to wrap one's head around because it's all about empowerment. But if I'm willing to explore the formula that things don't happen to me, they happen because of me, that I've been doing things that have created these situations in my life. So I need to, if I want to change in my life, I need to go to the seed and explore what have I been doing that is creating these situations. So again, looking back at the self. So it really depends on what formula one is willing to explore.
So, if you could clarify, is it then the change that perhaps maybe we keep grappling with is that the situation around me is changing versus how I'm responding? And could we perhaps not realize a domino effect of how I respond can actually make an impact?
I think in general, we're very selective of how we apply different principles, including spiritual, and back to the power of the mind, or positive affirmations that we're selective when we decide that mind's going to be powerful and when it's not. So when something's critical, we say, well, let's use the power of our mind to change the situation. But it's not the mind, the power of the mind working all the time. So as I go through the day, so I hear sometimes people say when someone's having a difficult thing happen and they may not particularly like that person, oh, it's their karma. Um, and I always find that interesting. We're very selective in how we choose to acknowledge the law of karma. Usually it's when something bad is happening to someone else or maybe ourselves. So we almost use it as a judgment or a curse. The bottom line is that, it's like gravity. It's not selectively at work, it's always at work. So, what that means is that as I'm performing actions, I'm setting things in motion, I'm creating consequences. I'm the constant in everything. So, it's not that things are randomly happening. They're happening because of something that I did in the past. And that doesn't mean, I go, oh my gosh, what horrible things I do. It's just there is a very direct connection between what's happening inside me and therefore what I'm inspired to do and what I'm creating in my life through my activity. So people know about this because I hear them say it. It's just very selective when we choose to acknowledge that particular principle.
I don't even know if I want to even share this example or what we, how we all feel about it or how I feel about it. So we had a senior student sharing yesterday that she was talking about, and I don't want this to be taken out of context. Perhaps she was really talking about how mm, when you're connected and experiencing who you really are, there's a certain vibration that you could be that could affect others. So she was sharing many years ago, she was on the plane sitting, and this is years and years ago when smoking was permitted on the plane. Well, she was sitting on the plane and, she didn't feel it was right. This person was beside her to tell them, could you please stop smoking? So she was really just really to the best of her capacity, just experiencing being a soul so that it wasn't affecting her. And eventually the person beside her says, is this bothering you? And she says, yes. And the person said, okay, I won't smoke. And then she was sharing that there was another student somewhere else seated on the plane, had the same situation, but was lecturing them the whole time. Smoking is bad for you, et cetera, et cetera. But it didn't affect that person from stopping smoking. And I don't know if that's a really good example or even to even share about, but she was sharing that she felt from her experience that her quality of the stage really affected others. And the reason why, and I said I don't want to take this out of context, um, I don't feel she was trying to have a desire to try to change that person's mind. But there's a fine line, it seems like, when we can even possibly use Raja Yoga to try to change a situation, maybe in a way that we think that might be good. I wasn't sure of your thoughts or if you even heard about that example that was shared yesterday.
I did not hear that example. It sounds very exciting. So, I guess the first thing is to understand what Raj Yoga is for, what its understanding of change is. It focuses on changing the self, a very specific change, which is to restore purity in the self. The word real is being used around this conversation today, and there is a perfect real and pure are one and the same thing. So when I'm in a scenario, my focus isn't to change the scenario. My focus is to move myself into a real or pure state and let that do whatever it's going to do. But at least I will be content. Um, so if we're in these scenarios where it feels things are bothering us, so we're not content, we feel that we are almost righteous that they're wrong, I'm right. So correction should happen, a change needs to happen. It's kind of, again, what am I creating? Because I don't have something real or pure in place. So first, I always want to look, what state am I in? Am I, I mean, my scenario, yes, yesterday, I guess, was we're on the plane. It was quite fun, actually. We're on the plane, and the point where they come and serve beverages. So they gave us all snacks, and, and then they literally just forgot our row, the three seats. They just, at first I thought, okay, they'll come back, but they never did. And they're way down there at this point. And then I sort of ring the attendant bell, and no one comes. And I'm like, it's okay. I'll just, wait till I've got water. It's fine. And I thought, but I was thinking about the other two people as well. I mean, maybe they would like something too, but they're trapped because I'm the aisle seat. And so I really stopped and said, am I entertained? Am I content? Am I full? I certainly, I had to check my own stage before I approached the soul. And it was a very interesting exercise for me. And I remember going up and really the purity was everything, to be respectful, whatever, however they respond, it's absolutely fine. Um, it's not that I wanted a certain outcome. It was really an exercise in addressing something, but using purity. So what's going to create a real change, and why we're saying our original stage is pure, which is very real. I need to get into that state. It is a source of benevolence. It will set good things in motion. I don't need to figure out what those things are. All I need to figure out is, how can I get myself back into that particular stage? That's the main change that we focus on.
So we started late, so we're running a little late. So you're aware.
Why do I feel like I have deja vu every time around?
So, sorry, back to the topic. Okay. I'm just reflecting just from what you're sharing, because it seems like such a big thing for souls to grapple with, that to be patient, that, something's going to happen, something will change. Let me just keep focusing on what I'm doing. Is it then perhaps a lack of contentment that one actually gets from, if I am actually following the directions properly, and the contentment of what I'm experiencing in the experiencing of what this study is about?
Ultimately, I guess I need to be content with the only change I'm going to look at is myself. That needs to be a very satisfying experience, trusting that that will set good things in motion. I don't need to know what they are, because there's a huge picture going on. And this is a huge drama, the coordination of billions of parts. And I might have a really good idea of what I think should happen at this juncture, but not knowing how that affects the billions of parts. So I just want to be a source of benevolence and support that sort of unfolding of goodness without needing to micromanage the whole drama. So I need to be very content, find it very fulfilling simply to change the self. And again, I'm thinking of the first student of the Brahma Kumaris, who was Brahma Baba, and how he had deep love for his stage. He really just had complete faith. It's cliched, but he had complete faith. If I change myself, it will set other change in motion. I just need to change myself. And he was very content with that endeavor.
I do feel like there's certain things that need to be clarified, because I can feel that souls are filling in the gap. It's like, I change myself. I'm not getting any gratification of changing myself. So, but I don't feel that that is what Raj Yoga is about. I was wondering if you can think of, or maybe just maybe explain a bit more of the experience of being a soul in a situation where it may be in the past disturbing, or could be I could choose, if I allowed myself the old habits to take over, or allow myself to feel like I'm a victim, etc., etc. What the experience of being a soul, what would I be feeling inside, so that I'm content with changing myself? Otherwise, a lot of spirituality that many souls have experiences that, just be patient. I'm letting go. I'm not feeling anything, no gratification, no contentment, no nothing. But I'm actually just letting go and renouncing and being bereft of anything. And that's why spirituality has such a bad rap.
I'm not sure how far we can get in the little time we have left, but I guess the main thing, one of the signs that I'm actually experiencing myself to be a soulless spiritual being is that my sensitivities completely change. That's a sign. A lot of people say, no, no, I'm soul conscious, but. And I always find that interesting when souls say, no, no, I'm considering myself to be a soul, but. There is no but if I'm really there. So you very naturally start to reframe things, start to shift what you're focused. It happens very naturally. I'm thinking of a scenario where we were in a situation where it was clear the soul was going to leave the body. And these two souls had to come and have I think, a very challenging conversation with us. And I remember, in soul consciousness, you're not trying to keep the soul in the body. You're not trying, you're literally in such a pure state. The only feeling I had was, how can I support these two souls in front of me who have to have this difficult conversation with me? Um, and it was very natural. I wasn't trying to manipulate or change a very, challenging situation. It was just, how can I maintain the dignity of these two souls who need to tell me something that they think is going to be difficult for me to hear? It's not difficult for me to hear, but how can I support them? So if I'm really soul conscious, I actually ask different questions. So that's a sign that I'm really there. There's no point in trying to navigate through the old questions, pretending I'm soul conscious. That just leads to more expansion. I get nowhere, but actually just really be soul conscious. And you'll notice that what you're looking at and thinking about and asking completely changes.
I'm going to slip in one more question. Is how do you feel that you felt in that situation? I know you said you had different questions naturally, but what was your experience?
I remember feeling a lot of love for those two souls, a lot of respect. It was very interesting. I really felt a lot of pure love. I mean, these are two souls I'm never going to see again. They're just the residents. But I was deeply touched by them. I wasn't in any sadness. But I just really felt a lot of love for these souls. Really could see the souls and their specialities and what they were trying to do.
Thank you, Judy Ben. So perhaps maybe we'll have a little bit of a reflection. Shanti.
I reflect upon my inner world, imagining it to be like a tree. There's a seed, the roots, the trunk, the branches, the twigs, and countless leaves, every leaf a thought. And sometimes I try to change things in the expansion. I try to control those leaves. And if I manage to affect one leaf, 100 more grow in its place. It becomes more and more complicated. and overwhelming. Where does change really happen? From the leaves, I let my vision travel through the twigs, the branches, down the trunk, underground into the silence, the roots, and finally, the seed. This is where change really happens. Getting to the roots or the seed of the issue. The awareness of myself. A very externalized sense of self based on temporary things. I go deeper, underground, deep inside, becoming very quiet to detect my true self that extends far beyond the boundaries of this body, timeless, a tiny invisible spark of light. That is me. I, the soul, the spiritual being with tremendous capacity. Nothing of the temporal really belongs to me. It will all change around me. I want to reconnect with what is timeless, eternal. Shift things at the seed. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Thank you for joining with us this evening. A warm reminder, in about 10 days or so, there is the public public Raksha Bandhan program at Scarborough. So that's Friday, August 9th, 6:30 to 8:30. This has been posted onto the website, and you'll also find it on Eventbrite. We may just have to tweak a couple of details on there. We just posted it yesterday. So also we have all our drop-in sessions online, and also on site at the Inner Peace Center. Also at the Academy, we have a Learn About Meditation session that happens on August 27th on a Saturday, 12:15 to 1:30. So, sorry, August 24th. So feel free to check the website for other upcoming sessions and ongoing sessions. Thank you for joining with us. Om Shanti.